Shalom Uvracha from Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. Tonight's study is the Haftarah in the second Haftarah series of our weekly Parsha this week of Parashat Bamidbar, the beginning of the fourth book of Moses, and we study the prophetic section connected to that reading. Tonight is also Yom Yerushalayim, and so those viewing and those listening, we bless them with the most meaningful and beautiful celebration of the great day in world Jewish history that's so connected to this beloved city. May this be the beginning of the entire process. We hope that tonight, with all the celebrations here in Yerushalayim, should be the night of the Mashiach as well. Amen. The Haftarah is taken, the prophetic reading of the section of Bamidbar is taken from the second chapter of the book of Hosea. Hosea, that's the first of the 12 prophets in the book called Trei Asar. Hosea, chapter 2. I would like to study the very beginning of the chapter, the very beginning of this week's Haftarah. I'm reading from chapter 2, verse 1, Perek Bet, Pasuk Aleph of Hosea. V'haya mispar b'nei Yisrael kechol hayam asher lo yimad v'lo yisafer. You know, the Torah section of the week speaks at length about the exact numbers of how many people were in each tribe. There's a list of all of the tribes and how many members were in each tribe, starting from the age of 20, and then they divided it into camps of Israel. Anyone that studied the book of Bamidbar, the way we refer to it in English is the book of Numbers. That's not a translation of the word Bamidbar. That's a translation of one of the other names of the book, Chumash Pekudim, the book of those that were counted, because there are many counting systems in the book of Bamidbar, more than any other of the 5 books of Moses. On the most obvious levels, maybe it's superficial, but the easiest way to see a parallel between the Parasha and the Haftarah is that in the Parasha we're discussing the numbers of the Jewish people, and Hosea teaches us a prophetic message about what numbers are we talking about. What will be the ultimate numbers of the Jewish people? Well, the numbers of the Jewish people will not be the 603,550 or so mentioned in the Parasha of the men between 26. It won't be anything close to the million or 2 million people that we know of from the text. It will be the number paralleling the sand of the sea. V'haya mispar b'nei Yisrael kechol hayam. How much would you say? How many granules of sand are there in the beach? Kechol hayam asher lo yimad v'lo yisafer. It cannot be measured, nor can it be counted. That's what our nation is going to be. It's beyond numbers. The numbers of the Jewish people will be beyond any kind of count. Is it literal or not? Depends on how you understand this. Baruch Hashem, today we have at least 14 million Jews in the world. It's 14 million, it's not Chol Hayam yet. There are surely many people in the world who maybe don't even know that they're Jewish. Maybe some are from the 10 tribes, 10 unidentified tribes. And all the time there are different people coming and saying, we are really Jews, we're really Jews. Or does this mean on a spiritual level? There are different ways of understanding this text. This is not the first time in the Tanakh where the Jewish people are told that they will be similar to the number of the sand of the sea. We find this already in the book of Bereshit, in the book of Genesis, where God tells Abraham that his children will be like the stars and like the sand. We find that Jacob says in chapter 32, verse 13 of the book of Bereshit, V'samti et zaracha kechol hayam. Your children will be like the sand of the sea. Asher lo yisafer mirov. Nobody will be able to count them. They'll be beyond numbers, beyond counting. Googleplex, like a number beyond the number. Asher lo yisafer mirov. It's interesting that even in the time of King Solomon, which is before the book of Hosea, of course, in the text in the book of Kings, there's a description of how many Jews there were. If you look at chapter 4 of Kings 1. Melachim Aleph Perek Dalid Pasuk Kaf. Kings 1, chapter 4, verse 20. It says there that the Jewish people were like the sand of the sea. Yehuda v'Yisrael Rabim. There were so many people of Yehuda and Yisrael. Kachol Asher al Hayam Larov. They were similar to the in numbers to the sand by the sea. Multitudes of people. Oh, so if already in the time of Shlomo there's such a description, I don't know exactly what's literal and what's not literal, but surely maybe it's an expression. In other words, tremendous numbers of Jews. Don't forget we started out with such a small, tiny group, right? When Jacob went down to Egypt, they had 70 people. 70 people developed into thousands, and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions. So it's a very large number. Maybe that's described as Chol Hayam, and there are different ways of understanding that. But already, it's important to point out that already in the Book of Kings, there's a description there of the Jewish people eating and drinking and celebrating and reaching the levels of Kachol Hayam. However, I would like to share an insight of several of the commentaries as to why the sand of the sea was chosen. And could it be that maybe there's a message here, not just in terms of the numbers, not just in terms of the numbers of sand granules, but maybe we could view this, says the Kli Yakar, one of the great commentaries on the Torah, in his commentary to Genesis 32. He says, you know why the Jewish people are compared to the sand of the sea? Because you could view the sea, just picture it as follows. The sea is trying the entire time to somehow overtake the sand. If you've ever been on a beach, right? The water, the waves are moving, roaring waves. And thank God, we hope that the world should be protected from tsunamis. The world should be protected from any damaging earthquakes, damaging hurricanes. But generally speaking, right, the waters come to the sand and stop. And there's a certain point where there's a barrier for the waters overtaking that particular part of the world. Says the Kli Yakar, the Jewish people will be like the sand of the sea. In his language, Nimshalu l'chol zeh, they're compared to the sand. Shekol galei hayam. It almost seems as if all of those, you look out in the middle of the ocean, wow, look at those waves, man. They'll go right over the whole sand. They come to the sand and somehow they're all humbled, generally speaking, by the sand. Omdim lahatzif et ha'olam uvahagiam lachol. And when they reach the sand, generally speaking, they cannot go beyond the sand. So they said that's a symbol of the nations that try to overtake us. We're like the sand, they're going to come and they look like with their roaring selves, they're going to come and destroy the Jewish people. Look at the waves and wow, what wave! And they come to the sand, and that's it. That's what he writes. Kacha umot hakamim al Yisrael, kemo shekatuv, as it says at least twice in the Tanakh, twice in the Bible, in two different places. I believe it's the exact words in both places. It says kol mishbarecha v'galecha alai avaru. All of your breakers and all of your waves have swept right over me, have passed right over me, have gone over me. It's both in the book of Jonah, in the book of Yonah, the second chapter of Yonah, and the same words are found also in Psalm 42. If you're just, it's Psalm 42, verse 8, Jonah chapter 2, verse 4. Kol mishbarecha. So in other words, you can picture it as if like the waves are trying to overtake the Jewish nation. You're not going to do it. We're like the Chol Hayam. Rabbi Hirsch writes in his commentary. He writes in his commentary on the book of Psalms. Mishbarim, the word shover, mishbarim, like the wave that breaks, are waves which crash against the rock, as if in order to break it, but are broken by the very rock that they're trying to break. In other words, their force is broken by the resistance of their very object, which they meant to destroy by their impact. But all of their efforts will be of no avail Israel, the nation of Am Yisrael, Alayavaru. They'll just pass right over me. They wash over me. But I have remained steadfast. That's one interpretation of the Chol Hayam. I saw it in another midrash. If you're interested in seeing it, it's quoted. It's quoted in chapter 32 in a book of compilation of midrashic sources in Torah Shalema on Parshat Vayishlach, chapter 32, verse 13 of Genesis. He quotes the midrash and explaining how basically the Jewish people like the sand of the beach. Have you ever gone and tried to maybe some of us have built castles, maybe some of us have built walls and moats around the walls, holes, and you ever build a little castle right near the water on the beach? Did you ever take footprints and walk on that sand right near the water on the beach, on the sand of the beach? Well, when one builds a castle with a moat around it in the sand, especially if it's right near the water, what are the chances that they'll find that moat the very next day? You come back the next day thinking, like, yesterday I put in hours of work. I just built this hole, Where is it? It's leveled again, right? But yesterday you saw my footprints. I was walking on the sand. It was so clear yesterday. It's gone. Says the Midrash, that's what the Jewish people are all about. To quote the Midrashic source. Yodea ani shezaro shel Avraham al shechotim lefanecha ata mevi pur aniyot. Unfortunately, it should never happen again, but the Jewish people were punished for certain misdeeds. But, says the Midrash, you bless them like the sand. What's special about the sand? Today you can make a hole in the sand, and by tomorrow it will be completely indiscernible. By tomorrow you won't see any remnant of the hole that was there yesterday. So too, our nation, we're celebrating tonight here in Yerushalayim, right? The resilient nature of the Jewish people. We're back again. But the sand was all dug up yesterday. Yesterday's gone, and today we have a renaissance. Machol zeh. Adam oseh gumami ba'erev v'dores l'tocha. They step into the sand, and then the very next day. The very next day, there's no remnant of that guma. Ulemachar mashkin v'hudet malay v'shaveh. Where's the sand from yesterday? It looked so damaged. We're like the Chol Hayam. The Jewish people are similar to the Chol Hayam. And finally, maybe we compare it to sand because it's impossible to pick up one granule of sand. Try it, try getting a little hole, one individual hole. The power of the sand is in the fact that millions and millions of granules of sand are packed together. You know what the secret of the Jewish people is all about? We're like the sand. We're not just out there ourselves, like this one here and that one. No, we're all together. That's the secret of the Jew. We are not alone. We are compared to the sand, for we're always supposed to be there together for each other. Our Haftarah is always read, or almost always read, on the Shabbat before the holiday of Shavuot. The holiday of Shavuot is the holiday of unity. We have a very famous tradition that when they came to Sinai, they were all joined as one. Vayichad Shav Yisrael neged ha'ar, ki'ish echad, b'lev echad, as one person with a united heart. Maybe that's the secret of the sand. Our nation is like the sand. We're all together. Someone just was it 2 weeks ago or last week at the table here on Shabbat told a story which I've heard many times. I can't testify to its veracity. I assume it's a true story, but this is what he told. He said that there was someone traveling on the New York State Thruway, I think, and it was a Friday afternoon in the summertime. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Traveling on the New York State Thruway, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and this person pulls to the side because he's having some problem with his transmission of his car. He doesn't know what to do. It's a little call, AAA or some other road service. Take a while. He picks up his hood, and within a few short minutes, there's one religious Jew who stops to help him. A second religious Jew, a third religious Jew. 3 cars stop, and within a few minutes they've solved the problem of the transmission, and they're ready to go. It's Friday afternoon. As they're walking away, they say to him, Shabbat Shalom. Have a good Shabbat. So he says to them, but you know that I'm not Jewish, right? He said, what? You know I'm not Jewish. So they are all staring at his kippah, his head covering. You're not Jewish? Oh, you want to know what this is? He said, my mother told me to keep one of these in the glove compartment. And she told me if I ever get stuck anywhere, just put it on my head. And within a few minutes, someone will be there to help, Kechol hayam, we're always there for each other, and never should anybody, anywhere in the world, with or without a head covering, no one should ever get stuck, and everyone should be safe on their journeys, and we should celebrate the fact that the Jewish people are Kechol hayam, asher lo yimad v'lo yisafer. Thank you so much for listening.